on First at 9 this Sunday, the 1st of September 2024. Step on the gas. President reminds the necessity of supporting him to ensure progress in the future. Promises on promises. Sajid promises to spread prosperity island-wide. Anura proposes salary increments that correspond to a rising cost of living. Namal criticizes the privatization of state assets. Dilith expresses confidence in his strategic plan. Decisive decision. Lanka Tamil Arasu Katchi to support Sajid Premadasa. Calls on the Tamil common candidate to withdraw from candidacy. Need of the hour. Economist highlights the importance of protecting the livelihoods of the rural population during a crisis.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දිනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Derana First at 9. I'm Aditya Singh joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Now in your top story this evening, President Ranil Wickremesinghe highlights the necessity of voting him into office in order to continue the progress the country has achieved during the past 2 years. Addressing a rally in Chilao, the President noted that Sri Lanka could have faced a situation similar to that of Bangladesh if he failed to intervene. Further, the President reiterated that both Sajid Premadasa and Anura Kumara are incapable of taking the ongoing program forward.
An election campaign rally under the theme Puluwang Sri Lanka, pledging support to President Ranil Wickremesinghe, was held this afternoon in Shillong.
People have to wonder whether they are ready to face another unfortunate situation. We have to let this progress continue. If we deviate from this path, we will have to face its consequences. Please think diligently and carefully and cast your vote. We cannot allow the country to run out of fuel again. Please support the victory of President Ranil Wickremesinghe by casting your vote next to the gas cylinder.
gas cylinder
Those parties may have nominally allied themselves elsewhere, but their members back Ranil Wickremesinghe. Even though the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna exists, its parliamentarians and members back President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Even though Rauf Hakeem of the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress and Rishad Badiuddin are with Sajid Premadasa, a large number of their supporters in Samanthurei and Kathankudi attend Ranil Wickremesinghe's rallies. Politics no longer depends on deals. Today, it depends on gratitude.
There is no need for me to remind you of what happened 2 years ago. We thought that Sajid Premadasa would accept the responsibility of governing the country. We were planning to support him. However, in the evening, he refused to accept it. That is a Guinness World Record because he is the first opposition leader who refused an offer to form a government. The JP decided not to talk about it. The former president invited me. I knew that the situation was bad and that it will worsen if not for my intervention. I accepted the responsibility alone and invited parliamentarians to support me. They joined with me in forming a government. That is how we united. I invited Sajid Premadasa to be the Prime Minister of my government. Instead of doing that, he labelled me as Namal Rajapaksa. Now they do not know what to do. We are holding an election now. Even though the parliament in Bangladesh has been dissolved, they cannot hold elections because some parliamentarians have been killed. The Speaker of Parliament and the Commissioner General of Elections are nowhere to be seen. That is the level our country would have stopped has none of us intervened. This is the governance that Ranil Wickremesinghe established with this team. I'm planning to obtain a mandate to continue that progress forward. Can Anura Kumara and Sajid Premadasa take this program forward? Are we going to fall into the same pit once more? We have obtained support from all sides. Most of our people left to support this JB. Please cast your vote in front of the gas cylinder symbol. If not, both the country and the gas cylinder will be destroyed.
September 21 වෙනිදා ගිහින් gas cylinder ළඟින් කතිර ගහන්න. කතිර ගැහුවේ නැත්නම් gas cylinder පුපුරනවා රටත් පුපුරනවා.
Horizon Campus 2024 Intake 2. Register now.
Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
Now, the Samagi Jana Balawege-led alliance's presidential candidate, opposition leader Sajid Premadasa, claims that the SJB was the lone crusader advocating against the forced cremation of deceased Muslims at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic's proliferation in Sri Lanka. The opposition leader made those remarks during an election rally held in Nachaduwa today.
Another election rally in support of Samagi Jana Sandhanaya's presidential candidate, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa, was held in Nachaduwa.
සමස්ත ශ්‍රී ලාංකික ජනතාව තේරුම් අරගෙන තියෙනවා.
All Sri Lankans have understood that Sajith Premadasa is the only person who is suitable to lead the country. He is the only one who can stabilize this nation. At the moment, he has proven what he is capable of. Most opposition leaders have not accomplished anything, yet Sajith Premadasa has proved to be the right opposite.
වැඩ කරන්න පුළුවන් කියන එක අද සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මැතිතුමා පෙන්නලා තියෙනවා.
මේ මැති ඇමතුවරුන් විශාල ප්‍රමාණයක් අත්දැකීම් තියෙන මැති ඇමතුවරු.
Most parliamentarians here have experience. These parliamentarians have worked for the country. We cannot develop this country without a team like that. It is very similar to a cricket team. A cricket team has a very good captain. I had a good team backing me when we won the Cricket World Cup in 1996. We now have a team like that with Sajith Premadasa upon this stage.
සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මහත්තයාගේ වේදිකාවේ ඉන්නේ.
මම කියන්න කැමති ආදාහනය භූමිදානය ප්‍රශ්නදී.
Please remember that when a decision was taken to forcefully cremate the bodies of deceased Muslims in 2020, the only political movement that took to the streets and advocated for the cultural and religious rights of the Islamic community was Samagi Jana Balawege and the Samagi Jana Sandhanaya. All other parties hid in fear when they had to speak up against it. The entire country, despite caste or class differences, fell into crisis once the country was declared to be bankrupt. We will announce a new program to eradicate poverty through programs aimed at optimizing saving, consumption, investment, importing and exporting. We intend to eradicate poverty. We will definitely create a strong society that does not need to depend on subsidies and relief. The Sinhalese, Muslim, Tamil, Malay, Moor, Burgher and all other diverse communities face the adverse repercussions of the country's bankruptcy. My team and I take on the responsibility of taking away your pain and suffering.
ජන ජීවිතයක් ඔබට උදා කිරීමේ වගකීම මමත් මගේ කණ්ඩායමත් බාර ගන්නවා.
Now, the main political party of the Tamil National Alliance, the Lanka Tamil Arasu Katchi, publicly announced their support to incumbent opposition leader Sajith Premadasa, who is currently running for the office of president through the Samagi Jana Balawege-led Samagi Jana Sandhanaya. Speaking to media, ITAK's MP, President's Counsel M.A. Sumanthiran revealed that the party's decision to not support ITAK's former parliamentarian P. Aryanethan in the presidential poll, while further revealing that the party requests P. Aryanethan to withdraw his candidacy.
Lanka Tamil Arasu Katchi, the main political party of the Tamil National Alliance, held a 5-hour meeting in Vaunia today to decide who they will back in the upcoming presidential poll slated to be held on the 21st of this month. Even though former ITAK parliamentarian P. Aryanethan is running for office as a Tamil common candidate, the Lanka Tamil Arasu Katchi Central Committee decided to publicly support and endorse opposition leader Sajith Premadasa for president.
She met at Vaunia from 11 a.m. till 4 p.m. today. We discussed the oncoming presidential election for 5 long hours and have arrived at 3 decisions. First, we have decided not to support Mr. P. Aryanethan, who has been described as the Tamil common candidate. Second decision is that we will request Mr. Aryanethan to withdraw from contesting the presidential election. Third, Lanka Tamil Arasu Katchi will support Sajith Premadasa's candidacy at the forthcoming presidential election 2024.
Now, presidential candidate of the National People's Power, Anura Kumara proposes a salary increment every 6 months pegged to the rising cost of living in the country. Addressing an event attended by Samurdhi beneficiaries, Dissanayake said the NPP is capable of taking care of the poor, adding that eradicating poverty is a pivotal concern for them.
A meeting with the Samurdhi beneficiaries organised by the National People's Power was held under the patronage of the party's presidential candidate Anura Kumara.
We have witnessed poverty. It is not a fashion trend for us. Eradicating poverty from rural households is a need we have to fulfill. Since the postal voting is around the corner, Ranil Wickremesinghe announced a list of relief benefits he intends to provide to the employees of the state sector. It includes an allowance of 25,000 rupees and a 24% 4% salary increment from January. Through our plan, we propose a salary increment every 6 months by taking the rising cost of living into account. In every society, there is a group of people who do not engage in its economy. A government is responsible for taking care of that group of people. Some are of the view that allocating funds to provide relief to such groups is a crime. An NPP-led government will implement a relief program aimed at taking care of the poor. I saw that someone claiming that they would eradicate poverty in 2 years. They cannot ask the public to starve until 2048 when we expect to develop the economy. However, those who said they would develop the economy won't be around by 2048. I hope they will remain committed to those promises when 2048 comes around. However, there is no point in me hoping for such things since the person who made the statement would be 99 years old by then.
අපිට කියන්න බෑ 2048 අපි ආර්ථිකය හදනවා එතකන් නොකා ඉන්න 2048 වෙනකොට හදනවා කියපු කෙනා දකින්නත් නෑ ඉඳි මම ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනවා එහෙම වෙන්න එපා කියලා මම ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරලා වැඩක් නෑනේ අවුරුදු 99 එතකොට.
Meanwhile, the presidential candidate of the Sarva Jana Balaya, Dilith Jayaweera, differentiate his alliance's strategic framework for Sri Lanka's development from among the plethora of other political manifestos, since it logically and scientifically guarantees the achievement of key benchmarks set in the interest of the country's development. He made those remarks during an event organized by the Piripundeshak organization in the southern province.
The 2025-2040 Development Strategy Framework for Sri Lanka, prepared by the Piripundeshak organisation, was presented to the general public in the southern province yesterday under the patronage of the Sarva Jana Balaya's presidential candidate Dilith Jayaweera.
At the moment, many political parties have presented election manifestos with some comprising over 200 pages. We cannot finish reading them. They think that election manifestos are dreams. Some dream of becoming the president overnight and then they claim that they will provide wage hikes. Some think that people will cast their votes for them if they provide smart classrooms to schools. They put their dreams on paper and then they proceed to present it as their policy manifesto. Those policies have been engineered to deceive the people. A strategic plan is diametrically opposed to such manifestos. A person who has no entrepreneurial experience cannot steer an economy. Such people toil in the grassroots to secure votes. How can such individuals develop a nation?
This strategic plan has scientifically and logically guaranteed to all of Sri Lanka that their household income will be brought up to a minimum of 100,000 rupees. This is not a promise. We have outlined how that target will be achieved within a specific time period. Many Sri Lankans leave their families behind to go abroad and make a better living. We have revealed how we intend to strategically address that situation through this framework. Not just that, we have also expressed that the first vehicle purchased by a young Sri Lankan will be completely exempt from tariffs, subject to a few conditions. Furthermore, we have also revealed how we intend to broaden the horizons of women in Sri Lanka through entrepreneurship.
Afterwards, a public rally in support of Sarva Jana Balaya's presidential candidate Dilith Jayaweera, titled Dilith Gamata, was held in the Rathkakulawa ground in Ransagoda, Kamburupitiya.
Many political leaders swap party affiliations daily. We see how families have divided themselves into separate camps. That is how they engage in politics. They know how to save themselves despite the results of the election. Should we not put an end to such politics? That change must be achieved not through hatred but by raising awareness.
Today, I contest this presidential election as a Sri Lankan citizen who paid his taxes on every single cent he earned. Presidential candidates had to declare their assets recently as the election draws closer. Those who fought against corruption claim to earn an average monthly income less than 200,000 rupees. However, they have spent around 80 million rupees on business class tickets to go abroad. No one is as corrupt as some of those who claim to be leftists and stalwarts of the movement against corruption. As you know, they have a cadre of supporters in the grassroots. Those leaders engage in politics from luxurious ivory towers when their cadre has not managed to overcome the dire economic constraints holding them back. We are disappointed about it.
Presidential candidate of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Namal Rajapaksa, noted that an elaborate conspiracy toppled the government of former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. He also went on to say that an SLPP-led government will work towards developing Sri Lanka under a proper vision to implement necessary reforms.
A rally in support of presidential candidate of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna Namal Rajapaksa was held in Pitabaddara in Matara this afternoon.
They attacked Gotabaya Rajapaksa till he was stripped of his presidency. Fuel queues started to reduce after Ranil assumed office. Ashumara Singh, who was a part of the struggle, was appointed as a secretary of the presidential secretariat. Harin Fernando and Manushana Nayakkara, who created the tagline Gota Go Home, were appointed as cabinet ministers. That is how they achieved all that they achieved.
It is clear that a conspiracy was launched to topple the government. Even though they say they developed the country, the truth is there is a shortage of jobs in villages. Rural development has been brought to a halt. We have become a government that earns through privatization of state assets. While the people are being pressurized with the tax burden, we are also obtaining advice from international organizations. If they think the general public will change their policies and party affiliations based on the political pole vaulting of politicians, they are wrong. There might be people who change accordingly. However, those who love this country would never do so. Following our victory, we will work with a vision aimed at developing this country.
To find out the latest revisions to fuel and gas prices, join us on the other side of this short commercial break. Stay with us.
Star Dishwasher Dali Hell Indul Pahasuwen Sede. Star Dishwasher Magic Tub එක.
Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
චන්දරුසුමේ කාගෙන් මන අපේ සිංහ TV සඳහා සුපිරි ඩීල්.
Welcome back. Now, while highlighting that the rural communities are severely affected by economic crises, senior lecturer at the Department of Sociology of the University of Jaffna, Dr. Ahilan Kadirgamar, highlights the necessity of strengthening food security by creating a conducive environment for the rural population to better contribute on that front. Speaking to Indiyavari Amuwatta on our current affairs program at Hyde Park on Ada Derana 24, Dr. Ahilan Kadirgamar is of the view that Sri Lanka should embark on a social protection program which has to be universal.
I'd like to move on to also talk about some of the key areas that you focused on: education, trade, policy for local production, as well as health, and how Sri Lanka can survive the rest of the 5-10 years that you call are critical and needs to be addressed with diligent efforts of policy and other measures taken locally.
If you look at Sri Lanka's economy, anywhere between 60 to 70% of our people are in the informal sector. In other words, they don't get a regular monthly income. They're almost dependent on their livelihoods on a day-to-day level. And it's their food security, it's their children's education, it's their healthcare that is of prime importance if this country is going to move forward. So I would say there has to be a focus on ensuring, first of all, that there's enough food in the country, because from time to time in the world market, there can be a food crisis. Prices can drastically increase or there can be shortages. So we need to use the current situation to put a much greater focus on the production of food. In other words, agriculture, fisheries, and livestock. Of course, the government can say, we don't have any funds right now, we cannot invest. So we have to prioritize this. But the one thing that the government or the state has is control over land. Now, in my research in the rural areas, I've found that even with this economic crisis, if people have 2-3 acres of agricultural land, then they can somehow survive. They will get some kind of a regular income from agricultural production. They will also get their own food. So one thing that the government can definitely do, even if it doesn't have large amount of finances, is that it can provide land or redistribute land.
Do you think we have the technological know-how and the kind of machinery and the modern technologies required for us to develop our agriculture industries?
And I'm talking about how 60 to 70% of our people are going to survive. It is through basic agriculture and fisheries so that they can produce a share of their food and also supply food to others. But that still requires some investment. Small irrigation channels have to be made, marketing centers have to be created, there has to be transport facilities to be able to ship all this food. We have to change the built environment in a way that we support small-scale producers. This is not the time to create big agribusinesses, which would actually take away the livelihoods of so many of our rural people. What are they going to do? There are no jobs in the country. Let's be frank about this.
You mentioned social protection as well. So how do we look at that?
Definitely, because not everybody can raise themselves through these kinds of livelihoods. There are disabled people, there are older people, there are women-headed households who don't have any resources. For them, social protection is critical. And in the IMF program, they are only looking at a target of 0.6% of GDP for social protection. 4.5% to repay debt, but only 0.6% of GDP for social protection. That's why we are seeing so much suffering. They need to drastically increase that amount. What did they do with even people's retirement funds? There was domestic debt restructuring last year. And according to my calculations, the retirement funds of working people, EPF and ETF, are going to reduce by almost 50%, by 47% over the next 16 years. So even the people who retire, their retirement funds are going to be much less. We need to change that. In other words, we can float other bonds and redress this huge injustice to our working people. People who earn below minimum wages, like plantation workers, their EPF is going to be reduced by 50% over the next 16 years. So, and while all that is happening, there has to be social protection. The worst thing you can do during a crisis, and this is exactly what the government did, is to change the system of social protection. They went from Samudhi overnight into Asvesma, which was a disaster. What you want to do is you want to strengthen the system. You don't try to change a social protection system when everybody needs it most. That was again a recommendation of the IMF, and the World Bank designed it, and you would have seen the protests, how unsuccessful it has been and the kind of disruptions it has caused. So we need a very strong, and I would say a universal social protection system, because you can't target during a crisis like this. One day the farmer has no income. The next day the fisherman doesn't have an income. Our economy is very seasonal. So how do you target? Just because somebody has a bicycle, they don't need social protection? That's ridiculous. Now, during an economic crisis, the incomes of everyone is declining. An income is a flow. An income is a flow that flows every year. So it's very hard to tax that when everybody's income is shrinking. But wealth is a stock. What we have seen in Sri Lanka over the last few decades is that inequality has increased. The wealthy have become much more wealthy and the poor have become much more poor. So we have to have a wealth tax on that stock of wealth and redistribute it. Invest it for the kind of rural development that I mentioned. So it has to be a combination. Social protection for anyone who needs it, at the same time ensuring our survival through rural development and food as the first basis.
Now, the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, the Lanka IOC and the Chinese Petroleum Corporation Sinopec announced their revised fuel prices for the month of September with effect from midnight yesterday. While prices of key fuel products decreased, the price of kerosene will remain unchanged this month. Despite the downward revision to fuel prices, private bus owners and three-wheel drivers claim that their fares will not be revised in line with the price revision.
The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation announced their monthly fuel price revision for the month of September. Accordingly, prices of all types of fuel except kerosene were reduced with effect from midnight yesterday. Pursuant to the revision, a litre of 92-octane petrol was reduced by 12 rupees, bringing its price down to 332 rupees per litre. The price of a litre of 95-octane petrol was reduced by 2 rupees. Accordingly, the revised price of 95-octane petrol was set at 377 rupees. Meanwhile, a litre of auto diesel was brought down by 10 rupees, bringing its per litre price to 307 rupees. A litre of super diesel, which was priced at 355 rupees, was reduced by 3 rupees, pushing down its per litre price to 352 rupees. However, the price of a litre of kerosene is set to remain unchanged in September at 202 rupees per litre. The Lanka Indian Oil Corporation and Chinese Petroleum Corporation Sinopec too announced their revised fuel prices in line with the fuel price revision of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation. Despite a reduction in fuel prices for the month of September, private bus owners claim they will not reduce bus fares.
බස් ගාස් සම්බන්ධයෙන් වෙනසක් සිදු වෙන්නේ නැහැ. මොකද අපි දැන් වසර ගණනාවක් පුරාම මිල සූත්‍රයක් යටතේ තමයි ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන්නේ බස් ගාස් පිළිබඳ ජාතික ප්‍රතිපත්තියේ මූල ධර්මයන් මත. ඒකට මේ මිල සූත්‍රය අනුව 104%ට ඇවිල්ලා නැහැ මේ රුපියල් 10 වෙනස් වීම. ඒ නිසා මෙවර බස් ගාස් සංශෝධනය ලක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ මේ අවස්ථාවේදී.
However, Chairman of the National Transport Commission, Shashi Velgama, claims that a decision regarding the revision of bus fares will be revealed tomorrow. Three-wheeler drivers too confirmed that their fare prices would also remain unchanged.
මේ අවස්ථාවේ රුපියල් 12ක් අඩුවීම හේතුවෙන් ගාස්තුවේ සංශෝධනයක් කිරීමට අපි මේ අවස්ථාවේ පෙළඹෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ සඳහා අවශ්‍යතාවයක් මේ වෙලාවේ කොයිතරම් ඕනෑකම තිබ්බත් ක්‍රමවේදයක් නැහැ වගේම මේ රුපියල් 12ක් අඩු කිරීමෙන් අපිට සුදුසු ආකාරයට ගාස්තුවක් තීරණය කිරීමේ හැකියාවක් නැහැ.
Meanwhile, Chairman of the Litrogas company, Mudita Pires, noted that prices of liquefied gas cylinders will remain unchanged for the month of September as well. As part of the monthly price revision, Litrogas Lanka was scheduled to announce the company's revised prices of domestic LP gas cylinders for the month of September. Off the back of 4 price revisions announced by Litrogas Lanka in 2024, the price of a 12.5 kilogram LP gas cylinder currently stands at 2,892 rupees. Meanwhile, the price of a 5 kilogram gas cylinder remains at 1,198 rupees. Last month, the company announced its decision to not revise its gas prices despite a price hike in the global market. And now some corporate news in brief.
The ambassador of Sri Lanka in Thailand, Wijayanthi Edirisinghe, recently held discussions with the executive committee of the Thai-Sri Lanka Chamber of Commerce to explore avenues to enhance bilateral trade and economic cooperation between Sri Lanka and Thailand. During the meeting, Ambassador Edirisinghe highlighted the potential for further increasing collaboration in key sectors such as trade, investments and tourism. The president of the Thai-Sri Lanka Chamber of Commerce, Akram Saroof, expressed his interest in deepening economic relations and discussed initiatives that the chamber is undertaking to support trade activities between the two nations. The Chief Executive Officer of Asia Asset Finance plc, Rajiv J.A. Gunawardana, assured to expand its branch network and adopt innovative technological advancements to further improve their company operations. In the annual report for the financial year 2023-2024, Gunawardana added that the company will continue to support the grassroots level customers and improve their livelihoods while pursuing equality in product offering to the customer base in order to build a resilient society. The company's CEO further highlighted that the company will focus on sustainable financing with plans to convert to renewable energy. Meanwhile, Chairman of Melstaco plc, DHS Jayawardena, asserted that the group is dedicated to investing in growth industries while adeptly navigating emerging risks and opportunities. He further stated that the company is ensuring strict adherence to governance frameworks and positioning themselves for future developments.
That's all the news we have for you tonight. Thank you. Have a great night.